Hello everyone. Once again, my name is Jeff Moody. I'm an applications engineer for 3D System software, and today I'm going to be talking about probing inside Geomagic ControlX. We're going to be breaking this down into three main subjects. The first one is compensating after taking a measurement, the live scan tools, and pre-planned inspections with the Play Live Inspect option. Because of what I want to show today, this webinar is not live, it has been recorded. However, you can still submit questions in the Q&A section, and we will respond to them as quickly as possible. So what is compensation, and what does it do in ControlX? Probe compensation is the method of determining the position of the physical feature from the probe center. Basically, whenever we use a probe to collect measurement points, it's being taken from the center of the probe and not the surface. So we need to give the probe point a direction and tell it what side of the probe ball the physical surface is on. This will give the measurement points a direction to follow so that the normals are set down correctly and any measurements off of this face can be calculated correctly. Now let's take a look at how to compensate a plane correctly. First, to create a plane, we need to make 3 points. So we'll take 3 points on the side of an object by pressing the primary button or the A button on your device. Once we've taken all 3 points, we'll then offset from the surface by a very small distance, then press the secondary button or B button. By pressing the B button, we are telling the software to give the measurement points a vector to align to so that the normals of the measurement points are in the orientation that we want them to be in. When we compensate incorrectly, it can result in various errors. For example, if we compensate on the measurement surface itself and not out in space, the normals will point directly back to that point, or may invert entirely. When we compensate on the opposite side of the face that we are intending, the normals will follow that probe point and compensate on the opposite side of the face that's being measured. Or the user will exit entirely without taking any compensation. This first step is extremely important to any downstream applications, so it's important to make sure that your compensation is done correctly. Now that we have a basic understanding of compensating correctly, let's talk about the two workflows that we're going to be working with today. The first one is the Live Tools. Live Tools allows you to do things independently of each other, starting with Live Align, which can give you datum alignments, 3-to-1 alignments, or RPS alignments, followed by Live Capture, which allows you to create custom points on any face, Live Geometry, which allows you to create 2D or 3D geometry based on the surfaces, Live Dimensioning, which allows you to create dimensions using your probe device, and then Probe Location, which gives you the ability to create custom comparison points. After Live Align, all of these tools can be chosen at random. The benefit of these tools are they're more or less unstructured. You can pick and choose which ones you want to use at any time. Our next workflow, the Play Live Inspect process, is meant to be a linear workflow set up ahead of time. Before probing, the user will go in and set up their alignment scheme, any comparisons that are compatible with probing, any dimensioning and GD&T that is required, and then they will play the Live Inspect process. The software will start automatically walking the user through the pre-planned inspection, starting with probing all the features in their alignment scheme. Then move on to probing the features that are required to create the necessary dimensions in the pre-planned inspection routine. The benefit of this workflow is it allows the user to be guided every step of the way, reducing the possibility of error. And with that, let's go ahead and step into our demonstration. First, I'm going to start off by probing this plane and then compensating correctly. Again, I'm going to select 3 points on this surface.
Plane.
1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to come back towards the camera, and just off the surface, I'm going to press the B button or the secondary button to compensate. Now, if I rotate this part around, we should be able to see that it's created a plane correctly on that surface. And it's kind of hard to see, but there is a plane there. Now let's zoom in a little bit. Nope. Okay. Now that we're able to compensate a plane correctly by pressing the B button out in space just off the surface a little bit, let's try a little bit more challenging geometry. Here my live geometry is currently on fit to cone, and I need 8 points to do it. So I'll start setting points down on the cone, and then it gives me a representation. And once again, I'm going to go to just off the surface and then hit the B button and now my cone is fit to the cone on the CAD. Now let's try working with a cylinder. This is the geometry type that most people get hung up on because of the compensation. Here, I'm going to select cylinder, and then we'll go into the slot. I want to fit a cylinder to each side of the slot, and the software is telling me that I need to collect 7 points to do it. Once I've collected my 7 points, I need to compensate inside the cylinder. Here I'm moving my probe device into the center of the preview cylinder, and I'll hit the B button. Now my reference geometry is fit correctly. Again, we'll repeat the same process on the opposite side. I'll collect 7 points, and when I have enough points, it'll give me a representation, and then I'll move my probe device into the middle and hit the B button to compensate, and that will tell the normals that it needs to be on the inside of that cylinder instead of on the outside. Now let's move on to the Play Live Inspect tools. Here I'm in Live Align, and I'm going to go ahead and select a 3-2-1 alignment. All I need to do is select the faces, and I can do this with the probe or the mouse. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do it with the mouse. And then it's going to, once I hit OK here, let me just change these around real quick. Once I hit OK here, it will ask me to start with the first feature that I selected. So this top face is blinking, so I need to go ahead and take my probe and touch it in 3 points. So 1, 2, 3, and then offset and there or step off a little bit and compensate. Same for this area here. 1, 2, 3, offset from the surface and compensate. And then lastly, this feature here. 1, 2, and 3, and then compensate.
All geometries measured.
Now that that's done, I can move my probe device along the surface here, and it gives us a real-time deviation. This area here looks pretty good, although it is a plastic injection part, so we might run into we might see some definite deviations. And again, I'm going to hit the B button, and then I'm going to go into Continue Live Inspect. This gives me my 3 different options: Live Capture, Live Dimension, or Live Geometry. And I'm going to go ahead and select Live Capture because maybe I just want to get a few custom points down. So it's put me into Scan, but I'm going to quickly, with my mouse, just select Probes. It highlights the 3 features that I already have probed, and I'm going to go ahead and create another plane here. And then once I accept this command, we'll be able to see my probe orientation after compensation. Come off the face, and then hit the B button. And here you can see my probe orientation. And again, we can do this on the opposite side here. I'm collecting 3 points. Let's keep going. There's another plane, so on and so forth. And if I hit the B button, it gives me switch to scanning or exit live capture. I'll go ahead and exit, and here we can see, when I rotate around a little bit, we can see our plane. Okay, now let's go ahead and switch over to our next tool, the live dimensioning tool. Since I've already captured several planes on here, the software will remember it, and I'll be able to use it as a dimensioning device. So here, I'm going to select this already created plane.
Planar face.
And then I'll do the opposite side to create a linear dimension. Let's go ahead and repeat that one more time. First, I'm going to choose this already created plane over here.
Planar face.
Then I'm going to come down and select the opposite face. Let's go ahead and set 4 points down on this sphere. And then I'll create a linear dimension by setting 4 points down on the adjacent sphere here. Don't forget to compensate correctly. And now we have a linear dimension. And last but not least, let's go ahead and put an angular dimension between this existing face and this existing face as well. Don't forget to compensate, and now we have an angular dimension. I'll hit the B button and exit live dimension. So let's continue on by selecting live geometry. Up in the live capture tool ribbon, I'll select live geometry. And then I'm going to leave it on auto, and I'll just start picking points on surfaces. So here I'll do the cylinder first. And I need to add in 7 points to create a cylinder in ControlX. Put in 1 extra. Go ahead and select cylinder,
Point.
and now we have reference geometry. So
Plane.
again, I'm going to create a cone here
Sphere.
by adding 8
Cylinder.
points.
Cone.
I'm going to go ahead and add a couple extra. Don't forget to compensate correctly. And here we have a reference geometry cone. So I'm going to press the B button out in space, and it's going to give me a couple different options. Here I can change geometry type, exit live capture geometry, or continue live geometry, all by using my device. So here I'm going to change geometry type, and I'm going to come over to cylinder, plane, and fit.
Use plane.
So the first thing I need to do is measure the top of the cylinder using this plane, and I'll set 3 points down and compensate correctly, and then I'll measure the cylinder underneath. This is going to give me two different geometry types. I'm going to have the plane on top, and then I'll have the cylinder underneath. Don't forget to compensate. And now I'm going to go ahead out in space. I'm going to exit live geometry. So now we have measurements and we have some reference geometry to work with. So let's go ahead and set down some comparison points. In the live geometry tab, I'll come up and select probe location, and anywhere I set down a measurement probe point, it'll give me a comparison point. This is comparing the mesh to the CAD to check for deviation. And here we can quickly see that these 4 points are almost out of tolerance. And then I'll put 2 more down here, and these are in fact out of tolerance. I'll go ahead and press the B button out of space and exit Live Inspect again. The live tools are great if you have a one-off part that you're setting up a new inspection routine for, or if you need to spot check components that weren't on the original routine to begin with. Our next tools, on the other hand, are intended for speed and ease of use. The Play Live Inspect Process tool requires us to have a pre-planned inspection already in place. Here we can see that I have a datum alignment set up and several different inspection features that need to be probed in order to acquire data.
Planar face.
When we select Play Live Inspect, it'll start walking us through each feature that needs to be measured. Here, I'm starting with my datum alignment. Up in the top left-hand corner, we can see how many points I need to collect on this individual face and how many targets I need to collect to create this datum alignment. Here, I'm on my second plane, and once I hit the B button to compensate correctly, I have 2 targets. Lastly, I'll create the third target here, compensate correctly, and now my datum alignment is done. Here again, we can see that when I scroll over the top of the feature using my probe, I can see the deviation in real time for this part. Now, I'll B button out in space to continue to the next inspection feature. Here it's indicating to me with this green arrow that I need to probe this feature to create a plane. Next, it'll move me to this opposite side, where I also need to create a plane by putting down 3 points. If you look in the top left-hand corner, I still have 6 targets that are remaining. Once a target has been correctly probed, the dimension will populate with data, indicating to us whether it's in tolerance or out of tolerance. And here we can see that this cylinder is in fact out of tolerance. I'll continue on to this sphere. Now we'll move on to this angular dimension. I'll create a plane on one side, a plane on the opposite side, compensate correctly, and here we can see that this angular dimension is within tolerance. And now if I go over the probe surfaces, we can see the probe orientation in which I took the initial measurements. Finally, with all of my targets accounted for, I'll hit the B button out in space and exit Live Inspect. The Play Live Inspect process is good for both the technician out on the floor probing these components and the engineer in the office setting up the inspection routines. Because of the ease of use and the guidance that ControlX provides you, this will streamline your workflow and reduce the time it takes to probe a part. So really quick, let's go back to our slide deck. For more information about the software, the applications, and solutions, please visit 3dsystems.com. For sales information and pricing, email geomagic.sales.americas@3dsystems.com. To download a trial and for technical support, please visit gettingstarted.geomagic.com. And with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Lisa. Thank you very much.